Good morning, students. This is Jayashree Madam, and we are going to deal with the topic Indian English writing, that is, Indian writing in English, prescribed for your sixth semester. It's a very interesting paper, basically. So, you will have an insight into the origin and growth of Indian writing in English. Now, you might have studied many writers so far in your PUC classes. For example, R.K. Narayan, Mulk Raj Anand, Sarojini Naidu, etc. Haven't you? Now, coming to Indian writing in English, in optional English syllabus, you will study it in a detailed manner. Now, as you know, Indian writing in English is closely associated with the introduction of English into Indian education system. Before that, we should be familiar with the colonization. It is because of the British invasion that we have English language prevalent in India, isn't it? So let us study these aspects one by one. So you have the book History of English Literature written by Srinivas Iyengar. He has given a very good survey of Indian writing in English, beginning from Ram Mohan Roy up to the modern times. So let us have a look at it. Yeah. So the beginnings of Indian English literature. So as you know, Srinivas Iyengar begins the essay like this: literature is the creation of three factors: race, milieu, moment. So any literature has these three aspects. See, as far as India is considered, what is the race? So race belonging to Indian subcontinent, Aryans, Dravidians. So our interaction with the British race, isn't it? So that is the main reason. Then milieu means setting. What is the setting? Indian subcontinent at the time of British regime. Then what is the moment? The moment is that of culminating point, east and the west meeting each other. So this is the major point. See, now what exactly is the race? Now, of course, it is true that we had our own native culture, but there were many other influences. See, by the term Indians, we are actually a race consisting of, many years of history, a result of multiple invasions. We had been attacked by invaded as a country. India has been invaded by many nationalities, Portuguese, Dutch, French people, like it is the British who have ruled us for more than 200 years, but all other influences also are there. Goa, Pondicherry, where the French and Portuguese domain were there. In Mangalore, you have references to Ullala Rani Abbakka. So she had fought against the Portuguese. So in almost all the places of India, you have one historical figure who has fought against the foreign invader, isn't it? Now, milieu, the Indian subcontinent; moment, the meeting of the East and the West. Yeah, so these are the people: the Portuguese, the Dutch, the British, the French. Reasons. Now, we may blame the invaders for destroying our culture, etc. But Iyengar specifies here there were quite many reasons why the British were able to take control of us. Say, infighting. See, there were, as you know, there were many rulers there, no, at that time. Small kings, emperors will be there. You studied in history. In these small chieftains, they used to fight among themselves, infighting. Then fall of the Mughal dynasty. See, there were many dynasties, no? Vijayanagar Empire, Mughal dynasty, the Bahmani sultans, so many. Mughal dynasty, there was this fall. Like, though these emperors were very powerful, they were able to hold the nation in a sort of unity. When a dynasty falls, no, there will be anarchy, clash between the Mughals, Nawabs, Rajas, and chieftains. So if you study history, especially state history, you will know the infightings among the rulers themselves. Regarding the village life also, see, what we have now, the administration system which we have now, that is that is what we have got after British administration. Before that, there was Indian type of administration was there. You have studied, no, in history, ganas, gram panchayat system, etc. So there was some sort of unity due to caste. Caste system is of course bad, but religion and caste sort of provide a sort of unity among the people. Then the literature and art. See, the whole Indian subcontinent is held together because of art, literature, and music. Classical music, Karnataka music, and Hindustani music. Karnataka music is common to whole South India. Then art forms also, Bharatanatyam, for example, Kathakali. Specific arts are there, and there are some arts forms which are same to the whole nation. Similarly, festivals, some festivals, Deepavali, for example, it unites the whole nation as such. So literature, art. So what I'm trying to say is, there were some factors which held the nation as such, but slowly they were crumbling due to infightings and all. This provided a fertile soil for the other nations to come and invade India. Then these are again historical factors. So as you know, there were infightings. I hope you remember all those things, no? Vasco da Gama coming to Calcutta. Next, there were many other people. Then the establishment of East India Company. They came here as traders, but in the name of trade, slowly they began to get a monopoly of our nation. Then Battle of Plassey, then which again is a very important thing in the history of India. Bengal was conquered after this Plassey war. This is regarding these British officials who played quite an important role. Warren Hastings, he established Madras of Calcutta. Then William James, he established Asiatic Society of Bengal, like that. Now, so as you know, the British got control of the nation. Now, from 1835 onwards, there was a quick, steady Anglicizing period. See, at that time also, there were people who supported English education, and there were people who were staunch adherents of Indian type of education. So those who supported English education, they said that we need new knowledge for the development of the nation. With due respect to Sanskrit literature, it teaches only about philosophy, soul, super soul. They are not relevant to the changing trends. So this was their argument, and many people agreed also. Then and one more very practical aspect was this: those who had studied English, they used to get jobs in government offices and all. Now, as you know, India is a very huge country. The British officials needed some people who can act as mediators between local people and the British officers, those who knew both languages, translators, sort of. So they needed some people, and many people used to get jobs. So, many rich people used to study abroad. All our national leaders, Mahatma Gandhi including, they had studied abroad. But there were people belonging to landlord type of homes. So these people used to study abroad, but there were some very comical effects also. Comical effects in the sense, these Bengali babus, they are referred to. They try to adopt Western methods and all in their day-to-day behavior, and in the process they looked quite funny. A blind imitation of the British people. I hope you have watched the movie Rakta Kanneeru in Kannada. So the hero there is a comic representation of a highly westernized person. Anyway, so as you know, from 1835 to 1855, 20 years of increase in English education was there. So now this English education had lot of influence on the social setup also. It was a jolt to traditional way of life. Now, see, when you study a subject in another language, it is not only a language which you study. What is language, by the way? Language is a representation of the culture, isn't it? Language and culture are inseparable. Language, religion, literature, they are all interrelated. So what these people did, those who studied in English literature, English medium, those who studied English education did, they started decrying Indian way of life. Otherwise also Indian society was ripe for change. As you know, Raja Ram Mohan Rai opposed sati system. There were too many blind superstitions, etc. It was very much needed. A change was very much needed. So reading of English literary texts, especially the ideals of French Revolution, equality, liberty, fraternity, so these things gave a quick awakening to these youngsters, especially people like Henry de Rosier and all. As you know, youngsters like they can affect changes. This is what exactly happened in pre-independent India. So there was a new awareness. And people said, we need practical changes, flair for practicality. But at the same time, there were some funny things also. Conflict in the family front. So some thinkers used to rightly comment. So these English educated youth, they were in the 19th century, whereas in their homes they were in the first or sixth century, too many centuries apart. In homes there were traditions. Women especially were not given education, so they will abide by the traditions, spirituality. Even now in India, women are expected to be the withholders of culture. All those saris, festivals, while men when men adopted to westernization, women and old people, they still were very traditional. This led to a lot of conflicts in the family life. Like these educated youngsters, they were not able to adjust with their wives, or parents, etc. This is a very normal process, generation gap. Anyway, at the same time, there was an awakening of intellectual and critical impulse. Rich people, advocates, enlightened people, they thought about these issues. They understood the necessity of a change. Even though the British rule was bad, they didn't really welcome it, but they thought Indian society has to change. So these things led to Renaissance in India. You know what is Renaissance Renaissance, no? Fresh beginning. So there are two kinds of two kinds of Renaissance in India: literary Renaissance and cultural Renaissance. Cultural in the sense religious Renaissance. So literary Renaissance was a result of English education, which in turn was influenced by people like Raja Ram Mohan Roy. I hope you know about Raja Ram Mohan Roy, who was instrumental in abolishing sati system in India. And it is Raja Ram Mohan Roy who wrote a letter to Lord Amherst asking for the need to implement English education. Later you have Macaulay's minutes. So overall English education system was introduced in India. The argument was this, in English you have access to science and other forms of philosophy, and if Indians study only Urdu, Persian, Sanskrit and other vernacular literatures, they will not get any modern knowledge. Modern knowledge and scientific spirit are the need of the hour. So this is what Raja Ram Mohan Roy felt, and it was endorsed by Macaulay. Macaulay spoke about it in a very derisive manner, but still, English education came to effect because of Raja Ram Mohan Roy and Lord Macaulay, we can say. So this led to literary renaissance, and by religious renaissance, we refer to the emergence of many institutions such as Brahmo Samaj, Arya Samaj, Theosophical Society and all. There is a need for the Indians to change. The Indian religions to adopt themselves to the change. So all in all, 19th century was an era of reformation, we can say, renaissance in India. So this led to literature. Indo-Anglian, actually Indo-Anglian means Indian English only. In the beginning it was referred to as Indo-Anglian. There were by Indo-Anglian, you refer to these two things. One, written by Indians in English language. Then Anglo-Indian refers to English people writing about India. Then of course there were Anglo-Indians, because of the marriage of English people and Indians, there were some people called Anglo-Indians. That is another thing. But all in all, here we mean Indo-Anglian. Here Indo-Anglian refers to Indian English literature. Then there were translation literatures. Translation literature in the sense, writers like Bankim Chandra Chatterjee and all first wrote in English, later they shifted to mother tongue. So what you have to remember is, even if they wrote in their mother tongues, their sensibilities were English. Like they were English educated writers who preferred to write in mother tongue. Like Kuvempu. Kuvempu also in the beginning he wrote in English and later he shifted to the mother tongue. So all in all, in this slide you have studied about the origin of Indian English literature. So let us have a quick recap. So regarding the Indian English literature, there were three factors: race, milieu and the moment. Right? Race is the mixed Indian race, a result of invasions, conquerors and occupations over a period of 5,000 years. Milieu is the Indian subcontinent, and the moment, the meeting of the West and India. So by Western invasion, you refer to all these people, Dutch, Portuguese, the French, all this. So then regarding the invasions, the seeds of invasion were sown in the infightings among the people after Aurangzeb's death, after the Mughal Empire, began to degrade and all. There were infightings. Then quite many historical events were there, especially the Battle of Plassey, after which East India Company took over. In 1790, East India Company, took administrative control. Then these were the major, viceroys and all, Warren Hastings, William Bentinck, etc. So the East India Company was the master of the situation in India. All in all, the after the British administration took place from 1835 onwards, almost 20 years, it was a steady, Anglicanization, we can say. So there were people who supported this English spirit. Anglicists and Orientalists, they are referred to, no? Then the influence of this Western education had multiple impacts. Some, the introduction of Western culture, the study of English literature, and the adoption of Western scientific technologies gave a jolt to the society. So in a way, it is good. When you get a shock, you emerged afresh, no? So these led to the awakening of sensibilities. The long dormant intellectual and critical impulses were quickened and came to sudden life, giving way to literary expressions. So Indian English writing refers to the literature produced by the English educated Indians. Then Anglo-Indians were there. There was also the translation literature, translated from vernacular to English or English to local languages. So in the next slides you will study about Renaissance India, literary Renaissance and cultural Renaissance. Okay students, very good. Thanks a lot.